Good morning, guys. So, in this video I'm going to talk to you about platform specific, what it is, or rather my definition of it, and why I don't think it's such a bad thing after all. So let's get into it. So it wasn't all that long ago where I started programming, and the mindset that I had was that I was kind of reading up on the different pros and cons of different programming languages, and I was convinced that the way to go was to work with languages that ran on every platform, because I have this obsession about being universal and being this type of be not only as a person, but the code I write should also be universal. It should work on any machine, right? And it's the same idea I had for development for different devices such as Android, iOS, and web. And honest to God, I believe that the way to if I wanted to start my own company, and it was actually the way that I thought about it. I thought that whatever I make, if I make a mobile device or a web page or whatever, I have to make it for all devices, because every user, regardless of device, should be able to use my product. That's the way I thought about it. And now that I'm older and wiser, I can tell you that sometimes this is absolutely the way you want to go, but for the most part, it's actually not that valuable. It actually doesn't make that much of a difference. Now, I'll tell you why. So, when it comes to things being platform specific, and I'm talking about a few languages here, such as, for example, C#, and you have Swift and Objective-C and so forth. There are absolutely limitations to having these things being platform specific. In other words, they have to run on a certain platform. You can't just move things around. There are limitations to that, and for most, I remember thinking that this was a bad thing. It was the best reason why I shouldn't learn C# back in the day to start off with. And then I was working for I was actually at my first company, and my boss has been a .NET developer for 10 years, and I did my fair share of .NET development at that company, and we had this discussion about, I said this exact thing to him. I told him that's why I don't like it. That's why I like Java more, because you can move it around and it can run anywhere. And he said, yeah, that's absolutely true, but why? And I because I have freedom to choose where I want to run my stuff. And he said, yeah, that's great, but what's the gain? Why do you want to do that? What does it matter if you can move your code from place to place? Because usually the thing is that when you created your application, you usually just need, if it's a web application, you just need somebody to run your code so that your business can grow and prosper. Why does it matter if you can move it around? Because odds are that you're going to pick something and you're gonna stick with it. And he actually made me kind of think about that. I mean, I'm the sort of guy who, my favorite lunch restaurant, I go and sit at the same fucking table every time I go there. I'm not this crazy person who goes and sits just anywhere. I'm a very conservative person. I am a habit type of person. And he made me realize that, yeah, absolutely. It's not C# is, yeah, sure, you can only run, and it's changing, they're changing it, but at the time you could only run it on Azure Cloud and so forth. And that's what kind of felt bad to me. I felt I was being locked into somebody's stuff, right? And it's only when I started thinking about it, when I realized that that's not really a bad thing. There are actually a lot of benefits to having something that platform specific. My favorite example of this is not platform specific, but it's actually language specific. If you do any type of PHP development, for example, I highly recommend that if you're using something, you should try out WebStorm or PHP Storm more specifically, because it's an IDE that is, PHP is a loosely typed language, but PHP Storm is actually so well developed for dealing with PHP that it feels like it's a compiled language. You have all kinds of luxuries that you don't have in Visual Studio Code or anything like that. And the reason why that is because it was designed for a specific language, to solve a specific problem for a specific language. And there's a lot of power in that, because the problem is when you have to be generic, there's so many possibilities. It gets really tricky for you to design a solution that is really good, well suited for one thing. You can solve things kinda for like you can go for width and kinda solve things for a lot of different platforms or a lot of different use cases, and sometimes that's good enough. But if you want to really make people love the thing that you're making, it's usually, as far as I can see, the best thing is to make a specific solution for that target audience, for that targeted thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Java guy, but I absolutely love Visual Studio. Like Microsoft make the best developer experience of anything, and C# is probably the safest language out there. Like they will give you, like if you go into C#, you can stay there for the rest of your career if you wanted to, because the environment is so well structured. I mean, there's so many more things that you need to do and deal with, a lot of bullshit in Java. I love Java, but there's, like, as I said, all this diversity creates another type of problem. It's not bad, it's just that it's a different type of problem. And C# doesn't really have much like that. It's actually really, really nice. And as I said, if you look at the pricing today, Azure Cloud is actually one of the cheapest hosting services out there. I use Google Cloud, and they're actually the most expensive. So I think back to my boss, and he's like, right, why do I need that pluggability? What is that freedom to run on any machine going to give me, apart from maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a good thing when I do local development so that I can run on a Mac or I can run on a PC or so forth. Yeah, absolutely, that is a valid point, but for my business, maybe it doesn't matter all that much. And the same idea came to be when I was working with my own startup and so forth. Like originally I wanted to build something that was for all platforms, and the thing is that I actually took a page from Sketch app. If you haven't used Sketch, if you're a designer, look at Sketch. It's a Mac specific thing. Sketch is my absolute favorite design tool. It is absolutely amazing, and it's Mac only. And the approach that they have had is that they realized that instead of making this really universal solution for a lot of platforms, they're going to focus on a single platform and make a perfect product for that thing, and make it a really high quality thing as opposed to something that is accessible to everybody. And I did the same thing for iOS. I started working towards iOS instead of supporting Android and web and so forth. And the results have been amazing, because now I can actually deliver a very good solution for one platform and make it make people absolutely love it. And the idea is that, you know, I can, of course, if that thing that I'm doing, because remember, when you're starting out, you don't know if your project is a good one. So don't try to like get as many people as possible to be able to access it. Rather focus on a smaller set of people, make them absolutely love the thing that you're building, and then the demand, people from Android and other platforms are going to go, hey, it would be so cool if you build it for this platform. Then you have traction. That's, in my opinion, a much safer bet than trying to get it to everybody as quickly as possible, because it makes it possible for you to build something that has, in general, higher quality and is going to be a better fit for a very specific audience. So what I'm saying to you is that I'm not saying that you shouldn't build things so that as many people as possible can access them. Being universal is a good thing. But don't think that being platform specific is a bad thing, because I made that mistake, and today I know better.